Nochmal starten. Good. So, today we will just continue with where we left off last week. And a good place to continue would be the trim and the split functions. Also, one more function which also can be considered quite useful is the join function, which is kind of just the reverse of split. So it but this only works if we have a list. So we will implement it such that we can pass a list of strings to it, and it will give us a new string. So I will now quickly create the prototypes for the three functions, and your task during the lecture will be to fill them with some content. So void trim okay, let's say it returns a new one. CSX string, no, CXS. Yeah. So trim will return a new string, which is where white spaces on the beginning and end are removed. I will just for now return this so that the thing keeps compiling, but this will need to be filled. Then we will have the split function. For the split function, we need some way to hold the individual parts. So we will use for that something from the STL. We'll just include the vector and then use it. We might create an own vector class later if we have time during the lecture, but for now let's just use the vector from STL. The other option would be, as I already mentioned, I think last time, a function which takes also an offset, but this is more convoluted and by far not as user-friendly. So std cx string split const cx string reference separator. Here we will for now of course return just an empty vector, and we'll have the join function, which will be a static function. It returns a new cx string. It takes a vector of strings as argument, a const vector reference, and it takes a cx string as a separator, which will then be filled in, and it will and as I mentioned, I think the last time, one thing that is quite nice to have is when the split function executes trim on the parts that it puts into the list. So we'll add here an option, bool bat trim. By default we can make it true. So the idea is that when we are entering, adding a string to our vector, then we will call trim on that string first. So naturally we would start with implementing the trim function, since we don't have it. This one can be const, and this as well, because they don't change the current thing. So the trim function, the idea of the trim function is if you have a string like space tab blah loop 1 2 3 \r\n, that this gets, let's say maybe we have blah bloop tabulator, that this thing gets cleaned up to something like this. So it removes all the whitespace characters from the end and from the beginning. Whitespace characters and whitespace characters are of course space, \t is the tabulator, \r is carriage return, so it returns the cursor to the beginning if you are in some sort of console or something like that. \n is line feed, so move one line up or one line down. So if you have a console, then each time you get a new line, then you have a backslash n, and the carriage return is useful if you want to, if you written a line into the console and then you want to go back and then overwrite the line with something else. On the console that looks nice. If you would do that on a physical printer, then you would be printing characters on top of other characters, so it wouldn't be as pretty. But it's good to have. And I think there's also something like backslash w. That was, I think, what was that? Backslash v. It was some more exotic white spaces. It's a vertical tab, so backslash w is a vertical tab. Sorry, backslash what v is a vertical tab, and backslash, that should be it. But this is kind of something that you will never encounter in real life, so normally only those four are relevant for us. So maybe reorganize it slightly and add this backslash v for completeness. So the task for one of you, whoever wants to volunteer first, would be to implement a function which will do just that. Yeah. So who would like to implement our trim function? Okay, if there are no volunteers, then let's pick Mr. Leonardo. Could you please... It's not so difficult, you can try. Mm-hmm. There is also another sort of thing that counts as white space. It's backslash f, which advances the printer to the next page. So that is something we might want to remove from the string when trimming it as well. And my recommendation to implement it in a simple way would be to create a small helper function that just takes one character and returns true if this character has a white space, and returns false if it's not. And with regard to how to implement this this trim function, I think the easiest approach would simply be to find the first and last offset of the substring which we want to extract. So find, like this will be 0, 1, 2, and from the back I wouldn't want to count, but it will be length minus 2 in this case. And then you just use the substring function that we already have implemented the last time somewhere. Did we? I think we did here. To extract the string and create a new one. So this should be reasonably simple to do. And for that you would just have one loop that starts at the beginning of the string and runs as long as the current character is a white space, and then breaks. Then you keep the counter, the index of the character you just checked, and then you do another loop that does the same just from the back. And then if you have these two indices, one will be the start argument for your substring, and your length will be just the difference of those two variables. So it's quite easy to implement, and there is not really a need to know the code base, since we are here really operating just at the level of a C string, as we are accessing the buffer from MP data directly. VNC viewer. There is one on realvnc.com, and there is one that you can get, which is free to use as a viewer. And then you have the Ultra VNC, which is, I think, on uvnc.com. So there you can get the completely free version, where you can get the free server and free viewer. Technically, it doesn't make a difference. Both viewers are compatible. VNC is a standardized protocol, so which one you use will only have an effect on the auxiliary features. One of the nice things about real VNC is that it has built-in encryption, which is quite nice. The normal VNC protocol does not support encryption, so if you want to access anything sensitive, you need to go through some own trusted VPN, so not like a third-party VPN service, but really something that runs at your target destination and then connects you directly to the physical LAN or something like that. Yeah, but for our simple purposes here, it really doesn't matter. We don't have any state secrets to guard or anything like that. And in the end, everything ends up on YouTube anyways, so we don't need to spend money for some professional solution. We can just go with the free options, which are plentiful. And also many of them of the free options are completely open source. If I remember correctly, there are even some third-party encryption plugins for either Ultra VNC or Tight VNC. I don't remember. I'm usually using real VNC in productive use. Do you have the IP address, or shall I send it to you again? Okay. So it's this one, 6, and the port. I think it's the right port. I can check that, but if I remember correctly. Do you remember the password? Shall I send it as well? I sent the password into the chat in case you want to, in case you don't remember it from the last time. Then you need to, if you are using the normal VNC viewer and try to connect, you need to specify that you don't want any encryption. There should be an option for that. Unless they removed it at some point. They might have removed that. That would not be great. In this case, you really would need to get Ultra VNC. The older viewers, they really had the option that you could specify whether you want encryption, yes, no, and so on. But it is possible that they removed this. Yeah, then yes. Then it should work. Perfect. Yes, and I would start with a function that returns true or false if the passed character as argument is a white space. So this way, we can at one we have one place where we can define what we count as white spaces and what not. You should no, you should just pass the character itself, and we have the placeholder capital T. No, capital T, since our string is a template and we can use whatever we want as a character. And you need to provide a name, of course, for your argument. Also, the return value should be a boolean. Just call it current char or car underscore char or something like that. Yes. Yeah, any of those. Just check if char is equals any of those provided in the comment, and and if it's true, then return true. Else you can return false. No, that's fine. Any more elegant way would be more computationally intensive. So this is the right way to do it if you want things to be fast. Well, backslash r, backslash n, backslash t, backslash v, backslash f, as in line 99. No, that looks correct. Okay, and there is one. It looks correct. There is one bug in line 91. There is a mistake in line 91. Nope. You have specified two different return types. You only can specify one. Okay. Yeah, if it's in the header, you don't need to specify the namespace because it's already contained. Right, and now you can do the two loops in the trim function. Um, you could use a while loop because you want to keep the value that you have. So you wouldn't use it in you wouldn't use the first initialization place in your for loop anyways, because you want to be able to access the variable after you terminated the loop. So um, you can go with making a normal while loop. In characters, yes. You length, not usize. Usize is in characters, in bytes. No, the thing is, it will no longer be true in the middle. If you look on how it's defined in the comment, you see the space in between blah and bloop, and the backslash t between bloop and 1234 is kept. So you need to make the second loop going from the back, and here of course you will need to break if it's no longer true. So you want your I index to point to the first non-white space in the string. Well, let's go to the trim function again. Right. So you have break. What you are missing is the incrementation for I. So you need to have I plus plus somewhere in the loop. Right. And now you could make a second loop which goes the reverse direction with a different iterator. So let's call it J or something like that. Why would you want to pass 2? No, why we will be looking for all of them. If one of the comparisons in the if in line 92 is true, then the whole function will return true. No, but no. That's our point. R is a letter R. Backslash R is a placeholder for a character which is a white space, which is carriage return. Yeah. Good. And now you could use a substring to extract the right portion, and then of course you need to write a test case to see if it works as it should. The first argument is the position where it starts, and the second is the length. So the first argument will be determined by your first loop, and the second one will just be the remaining length. And then you need to return result instead of returning asterisk this. Yes. Almost right. You can make a test case and then you will see. It's with regard to the length. Yes, but what you want is the remaining length. This would be the end offset. So what you want is actually j minus I. I think we will see. Maybe I'm off by one, but I don't think so. Although I might be. That will remain to be seen. That's why it's always good to make test cases and check if everything works as expected. Well, you have to call trim on the trim test, not trim test from trim. You just want to create a new variable of type cxstring. It can be called test2, and then you want to make it equal trim test dot trim. Oh yeah, and scdv. You don't want scdv string. May I have the mouse for a second? You just want And we don't need to specify this, do we? Well, it depends on the compiler, so let's specify it. But in this case we need to remove this because then it's just normal characters. Okay, then you can put a breakpoint somewhere next and we can run it. And let's see what will end up. Did we use 2 already? There is a closing bracket missing here, and there is a closing bracket missing there as well. P data from I. Let's also actually this could be, this one could be static. Okay, so let's see, test 2 p data. Yep, that looks correct. Wait, no, it does not. We are missing one. So this will need to be +1. That will not be correct. That will not be quite correct, because if we would have a completely empty string, let's just add here a +1, and then let's add here a test case. Special case, I mean, if the copy didn't. No, I just want to copy this, but somehow it didn't copy it correctly. So if I is equals length, then return an empty string, because it means that whole string was white spaces. Right, and we don't need this anymore. Let's rerun it, and maybe add here a printf. Comma .c string. Yes. Very good. Good. So that was that. So the next task, this time for Mr. Kevin, will be to create a split function. Yes. And with regard to creating the split function, the general layout would be we create a vector. I maybe do this quickly. Called strings, which will contain all the different strings, which later will return. And here where we have the to do, we will have a loop which starts at 0 in our current string, and then searches for the first occurrence of the separator. At this point, it takes the current section of the strings, puts it in strings, and then starting from this offset, search for the next occurrence and the next occurrence and the next occurrence, and so on. This will be like the basic functionality. And once we have the basic functionality, we can do 2 things. We can first of all enable this trim, and then we'll add another argument which will help us to improve how it works. It will be an argument which will specify whether I want to keep empty strings. So let's say we separate by comma, and at some point we have just comma comma without anything inside. So there we would want, for example, to have an option to say that the empty string should not be added to our list. There are use cases where this is necessary, there are other use cases where it's not, but it's a good option to have. And it's easy to add once we have the basic splitting functionality already working. Yes, so I would recommend to create a variable that will hold the last found offset, which starts at 0, and then make a loop that starts from 0 and goes till the length of the string. And inside the loop, we will then have to use the find function to find the next occurrence. Yeah, and the variable, the length variable, no, not a vector. You just need a variable of type size t called last offset or something like that. It's not quite how you define a variable. Just type space name. No brackets required. Space. Yep. And now you can create a loop. A loop, not an if. You can take an example from line 112. Yep. And if you scroll up to line, I don't know which one, scroll a bit more. Yeah, stop, line 101. There you have an example of the loop for which range we want to do it. So you start at 0 and then you go until, well, and then you go as long as I is less than the length. And just make a loop which has a loop iterator, let's call it I, and which runs as long as I is less than length. Well, you write I is equals 0. Why would you want it to run only? First of all, it's an assignment. You need to have two equals if you want to compare something. And secondly, what you want is basically what you want is the loop to be the same as in line 101. And you can copy the line 100 as well because you need the iterator variable. Yeah. and then replace your loop with the one you just copied. And you can remove the content of the loop except for the I++ because that's needed. No, actually you can remove that, I think, as well. We will see. Depends on how we implement it. And now inside the loop, now you already have the closing bracket, you don't need a second one. And inside the loop, you want to use the find function to start at I in the current string and find separator. Okay, just type find, open bracket, not open close, just open it. Then you will see what arguments find takes. And you need to open it. Yeah. So you see first it tells you what is to find. So here we search for separator, which is our first argument of split, then comma, and then it tells you the start offset. Here we start at I. Okay, and that's all the arguments. You can close the brackets. And you need a new variable to which you will assign the result of find. So you can call it, I don't know, size t offset is equals find or something like that. Well, you want the whole find from line 129 to be assigned to your offset. No, you want size offset equals find separator, comma I. No, you want size offset. Just delete line 130. Just delete line 130. Go to line 129 and insert in front of find. In front of find. Size underscore t space offset is equals. And semicolon at the end of the line. Okay, so now we test whether offset is -1, because this is possible. So you make a new if in line 130. If offset is equals -1, well, you need to put the what you are comparing. You need to put your comparison operation in round brackets, and you need not the -1, the whole thing, and you need to use equals equals. Single equals is always an assignment. Double equals is a comparison. Okay, remove the semicolon, and we're still missing a bracket. Nope. Between if and offset. Okay, And so if this is the case, then you write offset is equals m length. Because if we don't find the end, basically, the separator, then we assume that just one equals. And m arrow length. M arrow u length to be exact. As you see it in line 128, yeah. And a single assignment, not a comparison. Single yeah. Okay. So what you can now do here is you can create a new variable of type cx string. So you type cx string space. Let's call it str is equals. Nope. Is equals substring. No, the way we call it sub str. Yeah. Open brackets. And as start position, we specify last offset. The same way it's written in line 126. Last comma offset. Sorry, last underscore offset. I'm now getting confused myself. Okay. Comma, and then we want the length, which will be offset minus last comma offset. Okay, and now semicolon. Enter. And here let's type break and put a breakpoint on it. So we don't want to actually break like in production, but for now, for just to test this part of the function, you can just type break break semicolon, and then press F9 or click on the right side of the number. Yeah, and then of course you need to create a test case for it in main. So you could try to split test by spaces. Test, comma, test dot split open brackets the wrong one. Open bracket quotation mark not exclamation, quotation space quotation mark close brackets semicolon. And now remove the breakpoint from line 27. You can either click the red dot to make it disappear, or you can set your cursor in the line and press F9. Okay, and now you can run it. And I think it will complain about something. Okay, may I have the mouse for a second? Okay. We have a typo. Separator has two A's. And also this is not relevant, but it just looks nicer if it's properly indented. And let's add a space here. The break is there. Let's run it. Okay, we still have some bugs. Right, we need to initialize this with 0, otherwise it will fail. And we now would expect, so our current string is this one, so test1 hello world. So we should now get just test1 into our first string, and we got test1. So this worked out nice. So now you can remove the breakpoint and the break. And what we want to do is we want to add the string to our strings. So you can just type strings dot push underscore back, open brackets, strings punkt. No. We have defined a vector of x strings in line 125. So we now want to write the name strings and punkt to call a function on the vector. And the function is pushback, which adds one entry to the end of the list. And then as an argument, you want to pass our str variable. Close the brackets and semicolon. Right. Good. And now, before we do anything further, we need to update our last offset to the right value, and we need to update our I as well. So let's think about it. First of all, I think we don't need both variables. So may I have the mouse for a second? We keep last offset, but we get rid of I. We use last offset instead. Okay, that's some fast things. Okay, so now what you want is you want to assign last offset to be offset +1. Okay. Now there are I wanted to say there are 2 bugs in the line, but now there are still 2 ones. Now there's 1. You are missing the semicolon. Okay. So now the last offset should be set 1 past the current thingy, so it should work. So you could remove the breakpoint from line 133. Yeah, go to main. No, it was removed, now you re-edit it. Now go to main. And you want to assign the result of split to a variable. So you could write just auto space strings is equals the rest of the line. Auto strings, also auto space strings is equals, and then what the content of the line 28. Just the whole thing. And you can then delete line 28 because we don't need it twice. Okay, now we can put a breakpoint in line 30. Okay, and now let's run it. And we want to have 3 words: test, hello, and world, all in one. Close it. The breakpoint didn't work. Did you remove the breakpoint? Yeah, the breakpoint is gone. Re-add the breakpoint, and now rerun it. May I have the mouse first? Is it doing something? Something's broken. Now it works. Okay. So let's see. Strings has 3 elements. Let's see what they are. They are a bit too long to see them. So the first one is test1, the second is hello, and the third one is world. So it works. Well, at least the basic use case works. So what we will want to do now will be to add some additional functionality to our substring to our substring function. First of all, may I have the mouse for a second? We will add here a yeah, right. So we want to use these two arguments, btrim and bkeepempty. So what you will be doing is you will add some code between line 132 and 133, and first will be to check if btrim is set, and if btrim is set, then you will call trim on our str. So we just assign str is equals str.trim, and the next thing is you will check if either the string is not empty or bkeepempty is true, and if either of these two cases is true, then you will push it back to our strings, else you will just not do it. So these needs to be added, and it would be good if you would try to do it without too much guidance. Is it? I see you clicking things. Try again. Is it still not working? Do you see the image? Wait, let me... okay, wait a second. I will see if there is anything. No, but I don't see anything happening with the network right now. That would be a problem. Wait, I can disconnect you. Your client should then reconnect. Maybe then it will be better. Okay, you should be back in. Is it now behaving better, or is it still broken? Wait, okay, wait a second. Maybe there is some key locked in the... Try again. Sometimes when switching between the virtual machine and VNC, there can be that the key state gets not communicated properly, and then the thing thinks that the key is pressed while it has been released. Yeah, seems to be working. Good. I don't know if we have an empty function, but if you can add one, it would be a short function, so it's easy to add. You don't need the exclamation mark. We don't have one, so if you, unless you want to make one, you could just directly try accessing the m variable and then the u length. But it would be more elegant probably to create an explicit empty function. No, you need to create it outside of any other function. Nope, you still need to move it up. You don't. You just put it in line 122. Yeah. Well, you added your keep empty line one line too high. Also, your function is missing a closing brackets. Yeah, and the return type is also missing. The line looks very complicated and not quite right. Maybe I mean the whole line 136. Um, so there are two things which kind of you just now threw together. The trim is independent from b keep empty. So you should go to line 139 and there just have a check. If trim is true, then string is equal string dot trim open close bracket semicolon. If trim is true, then string is equal. So then str is equals str dot trim. Well, your trim is true needs an if, and it needs a double thing star. Double equals to be a comparison. If b trim is equals true, yeah, and your trim needs open close round brackets and the semicolon at the end. No. The open and close bracket should be only at the end, not around the whole thing. No, this line is fine. The other line here. Yeah. Yes. Okay, that was one part. And now the second would be you can move your if from line 136 in between lines 144 and 130 and 131. So your no, not there. Yeah, remove the if at the top and take the line from 136. You can just mark the line and press Ctrl X to put it into the clipboard. And then go to line 140 at the end. Press Enter and insert the line Ctrl V. And now what you want is either keep empty or string is not empty and the rest of your if is not needed. So you can remove everything after the double pipe. Yeah? That can go. Remove the spare bracket at the beginning of str. And you need to negate it, so it's not empty. Exclamation mark str. The closing bracket was good, you can recreate it. And then you can put the closing curly brackets after pushback. So go to line 142, press enter, and create a, yeah, good. Right. There is one more bug in line 123. You are missing a return type. No. That was line 124. That line was okay. Or at least okay-ish. You just need to write bool at the beginning of line 123. Okay. Okay, let's try if it compiles. Okay, and it did. So may I have the mouse? Okay, so let's do some cleanup. First of all, we want exclamation mark M or SU. So if there is no M, then we also say it's empty. We don't need the brackets around this. Okay, the rest is fine. Here, this line doesn't need to be there. This thing could be like this. This could be like this. And to simplify things, we can get rid of the brackets. This should be there. No, okay, that looks nice. That looks nice. Right. So of course the trim is kind of oh, this is a bug. There should be no semicolon there. Okay, so the trim is of course a bit not so useful if we are using white space as separators. So let's create a new test string for our, let's call it test S, and let's separate it with commas and add some spaces to the thing. Right. So now what we want to separate by comma, and if we run it as is, we will see that the strings we will get string, wait, did it fail? Oh, it failed. Why did it fail? I thought it was working. Okay, we seem to have some other bug as well, because split. Ah, that's why. Because I did not update this line. That it's just a small mistake. Strings, we have 3, so this works fine. And you see here we have the world is fine. Why is that? Right, because by default we said that trim should be true. So let's say by default should be false. Now it will show it the way it just splits it. Oh, and we should add one more test. So we have 3 items, and you see now, once I open them, that they contain like white spaces at the end or at the beginning or at both places. And we can also add like a comma. So now we will see that we have 4 results in our strings array. You see, size 4. So now what we can do is we can enable trim, and we can set to keep empty false. And now it will skip, so this entry here will be completely discarded, and the spaces at the beginning and end of the string will be discarded as well. Or we can create a crash, that's also an option. Why? Okay. So we had an empty string here, and our trim is not proof against this case, so we need to have here if no M, then return CX. Now it should work. Now it shouldn't crash anymore. No, it still crashes. Why? The assignment operator. Sorry. Okay, so actually this might. This would need it as well, but we need to improve the assignment operator. Where was it? Here. These, and if no M, then yeah. Now it should be fine. Right, so we have again just 3 results, and each of them contains no empty spaces anywhere. This is a useful split function, and I see we are running out of time. So I would suggest to make the join function, because it's quite simple. I think it is F. Okay, we don't have an append function that makes it not as simple, but I think it's still a easy enough to do. And we can make this this to be homework. And what we will also need will be a append function. But the append function we will do during the next lecture. So if you would have already the append function, it would be super trivial to implement join. Well, actually, we could maybe do it the next time. So can we do some easier homework? Maybe we have split. Well, we don't yet have join. That complicates things. Okay, but I have an idea what would be a good easy homework. std pair cx string split 2. So the normal split function, it splits based on a separator in as many elements as they are. But what also is useful is to just split in one place. So we will have here the split 2 with separator and with it will either split from the back or from the front and return a pair with the first string and then the rest, or with the rest and then the last string. So to do what's the date? 23/11 2023 23/11/2023. So it splits a string in two at the first or last occurrence of the separator. Right, so examples. If we have path file name ext, then path split 2 from, well, test split 2 from this gives us pair from C double point and path, and split 2 from the back, so true gives us this as a result. So that's what we want. And one could kind of be inefficient and kind of implement it by using normal split and then by using join, but that would not be good. So we want this to be kind of implemented manually, just with one find. You don't need a loop in this case. And then just split at the right spot. And let's say that we do not trim, or do we trim? Let's say we trim. Trim is optional and should apply to both elements if set. Good. right, and to ensure that the thing will compile, we just return an empty some empty thingy. Just quickly see whether it will rebuilds, and then we were done for today. Okay, so yeah, we have a homework, we have a plan for the next exercise, which will be those two, and probably something else. Yeah, and since we are 1 minute over time, then I won't longer use your time. We will see each other next week, or today evening if you attend the main lecture. Good luck with the homework, and bye bye.